I'm a human and animal chiropractor. I've been in practice for 30 years and I've been adjusting primarily horses since 1994. And I say that posture is the language of the horse because you can look at my body language and kind of tell whether I'm happy or I'm sad or if I'm uncomfortable by how I'm moving or standing. So the same thing goes for the horses. Horses posture to each other, and they have different postures when they're happy or they're sad or they're sick or they're excited or they're angry. So we need to learn to look at their body language and to be able to understand how they're feeling more so. My posture prep is a technique that I came up with back in actually cross fiber grooming back in 1997 when we were iced in for two years in a row. Right. And my two horses were in 10 by 10 stalls with no place to hand walk, a beautiful old driving barn, and grooming them every day this way was not helping them. So I came up with a cross fiber system that comes from human therapeutics so that if you have a tendinitis, you have scar tissue, we go across those fibers to break up the adhesions and scar tissue. So I was teaching that from like 97, and 2008 I decided to share it with the masses. So as a chiropractor, my passion is posture. I love acupuncture, I love energy work, I love all that kind of stuff, but when it comes to chiropractic, I'm pretty orthopedically oriented from the standpoint we need to work efficiently in gravity. So we want to look at our horse's posture, and to go ahead and define optimum posture, we have to look at their foundation. Now, a horse that's standing truly four square comfortably, they have their cannon bones on the vertical. Just like this beautiful building still standing because it was built with all its supports on the vertical, so there's less stress and strain on the system. So you want to look at your horse, look at horses you're working with, and see, do they naturally like to stand four square? And if not, that's going to start to tell you about the asymmetries in the horse's body. Now with a person, you can look at me and easily say, well, her right ear is high and she's got crooked hips. But with a horse, you literally have to come here and look at this side, and then you have to run around over here and look at this side. So you're going back and forth, and horses, like people, typically have a prettier side and a not so pretty side. So we want to help the sides to be symmetrical. We're riding them, even side saddle, we're riding them for symmetry. And so we want to be able to prep their bodies. So I'm about posture and about preparation as the foundation for success. Whether it's your lessons or your tack or your own riding attire, so that your ride or your competition is going to be more successful. There's certain areas to look at on the horse that are pretty key that you're going to compare from the right side to the left side. You're going to look at the throat latch. You're going to look at the length and the contour of the crest, the height of the withers over top the cap of the scapula, and where that scapula fits in. And then the contour through here, the width of their waist, the angle and kind of the contour of the top line. And then you're going to compare both sides. And then you'll be able to start to actually be more strategic and see what you see posturally on the ground, how it might relate to your riding or to yourself, and also to their feet. She has a little difference in her front feet. So where did that come from? Was it an injury? We don't know. So hold on a sec.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll do this.
Okay. Right.
So did everybody kind of have a look at her to see what she looked like? And you want to say, you know, does the horse look pettable? The skin is the largest organ, and you want a horse, if they're comfortable in their own skin, they're going to look pettable. When you pet the horse, that fascia, that skin should move. The skin is the clothes. So you can look at some areas and go, well, it doesn't look quite as soft. You want to come back. The shoulder's always going to be looser because there's more range of motion. Then you'll get back in through here, but that should all be nicely loose and pettable. And underneath that skin is a big area of our lymphatics. So you'll see horses that get body work, they get adjusted. You groom them, and all of a sudden they look softer and fuller. In part, that's because the lymphatics are filling up underneath their skin. So you take care of things on the outside, then you take care of things on the inside. If a horse feels better on the outside, there's less likely to have gastrointestinal issues on the inside. So we can go ahead and turn her around, Grace around, yes. Oh, you can turn her all the way around, yeah. For the sake of efficiency, and see if you can get her to square up a little bit there. So how does she compare from the right side to the left side? Do you see a difference in the length of her crest or the contour of her crest or her shoulder blade? Which side do you think is prettier?
This side.
Yeah? Yeah, I agree. I would say the other side. It's more so when you look at her here, funny enough, this shoulder's a little bit more upright. She looks a little shorter through here, and without even pulling her mane up, it looks like she's got a little bit more of a dip. So it's like if I'm standing here, my shoulders are going to be more square. If I have my shoulder up like this, the length of the neck's going to be shorter. So that's going to affect the horse's shoulder blades. Remember, the horse's shoulder blades are only attached by muscles and soft tissue, fascia and ligaments. So they can move all over the place. If the shoulders aren't symmetrical, the cervical spine can't be symmetrical, and then we have problems going all the way to the back. So she's not standing bad, but you can kind of see where she's not standing evenly, pardon me, for all four square. So one of the very fun things to do is to go ahead and look for what I call dents and dings. Keep probably walking out of the camera, sorry about that. Dents and dings, which, is she safe? Can I wag this?
Very safe, yeah.
I wag the flag. So you remember dents and dings. She doesn't have really profound dents and dings, but you can see there's a little bit of a kind of cleft in here. But if you were to feel in there, it's a pretty good dent. So horses have the tendency to run into things, other horses' hooves, fences and stuff, in the shoulders, in the neck, and in the point of the buttocks. So when they have a dent, it's actually a site of a hematoma. It was a really bad bruise that kind of liquefied. So the muscle can't heal, and as it slowly, the hematoma resolves, you get scar tissue. So we look at those dents in the past as if they're cosmetic, but they're actually highly restrictive. Because if you have a dent here, you're affecting the horse's hamstring, and the horse's hamstring goes all the way up to the back of the sacrum. If you have a tight hamstring, the horse is not going to be able to move their stifle and their hock as well, and from behind, it'll often cause that pelvis to be higher. So we can actually take care of the dents and dings and pretty quickly have the horses be more comfortable and stand more square. She's definitely liking to stand a little heavy on the other side. And it can be very subtle, and at the end we'll go ahead and have you guys come down and feel this. But can you feel this little, see this little divot, and it's kind of long in here? That's very important in the front of the shoulder because there's a muscle that goes from the back of the jaw. It goes all the way down across every cervical vertebra into the front of the shoulder. Now, if that gets restricted, that can cause the horse to be like this. And then they'll be thicker in the base of the neck, and they're not going to be able to move the shoulder as freely. It'll affect every cervical vertebra, the jaw, the shoulder, the elbow. I've seen it actually cause flat spots in the withers because it pulls the vertebra. These little bumps are individual vertebra, can pull them over to the side, which is then going to make the horse's withers crooked. So then they're not going to be able to move as freely. So I typically have little forms. So in your brochure there, if you open it up, you can actually see my little description there. So it talks about what I'm going to be going over. But you want to look for white hairs, loss of hairs, dents and dings, actual scar tissue from surgeries or injuries, because that's going to also, deep in we can have restrictions, but the skin can also have restrictions. See, we want our skin to be comfortable. We want her to be flexible through there, because if our clothes are tight, we're not going to move. So you really want to look for those dents and dings, and I challenge you to even just mark on that paper, where do you know that you have your horse has white hairs, has dents, has dings, has loss of hair, and then go back and check and inspect them and see what you find and you don't find. The other thing I want to point out relative to the horse and their symmetry and their movement is the functional axes of rotation. The point of the hip and the cap of the scapula actually teach gait analysis using this, because these are kind of like the right hind wheel, left hind wheel, right front wheel, left front wheel. And there's pretty much like an axis that goes through there. And if you watch a horse move, when they're moving nicely, these stay fairly static. And the body moves and extends, the limbs extend from that. So lots of key points from the standpoint, point of the shoulder, functional axes of rotation, point of the buttocks as well. Quick sip. It's actually pretty lovely. And if you look, a nice thing when horses are standing, you know, she has an upright foot. They're going to quite often have an upright pastern. I've seen more and more horses these days that actually have upright pasterns, and they shouldn't be upright. They're a normal length pastern, they're not short, so that means there's some sort of restriction going on in the lower joints. So we have any questions yet? No? So when we're looking at the symmetry, or you're looking at the symmetry of your horse right to left, a tight throat latch, is that a conformation fault? It's poor posture. Is mutton withers a conformation fault? No, it's poor posture. Horses should have at least 3 fingers height from the cap of the scapula to the withers, and ponies at least 2. Ponies don't have to be mutton withered, and we don't want them to be mutton withered. So there are important things to think about. Is it actually poor posture or poor conformation? Conformation's the length of the bone, the length of the cannon bone, the length of the shoulder, the length of the pelvis, the length of the femur. That's our conformation. When it becomes asymmetrical or scrunched, that's poor posture, and we can all work with our posture, right? You can have a beautifully conformed horse that has poor posture that's not going to be able to perform. They're going to have a shortened performance life. Horse with compromised conformation that actually can go the distance for decades because their posture's been optimized, because they've been looked after. So with my grooming, so we'll go back to the dents. If we look here, she's got a little bit of a flat spot here. Can you see that? I get very picky because what it is, it's the fluid dynamics, and the fluid under the skin is going to tell you where you need to work. So if I see something like that, I want to see if there's something that I can do to work that out. So, oh, that was bad.
It's a Japanese beetle.
Oh, is that what it was?
Text.
So you want to work that out. So if you do have any horses, or a horse with different dents and dings, before you do the actual cross fiber grooming, which is a pre-ride warm-up and pre-ride evaluation for your horse, go ahead and check for the dents and dings. And you might just see that the shoulder's flat. And if the shoulder's flat, feel in there, and that's where you'll actually find some of the dents. So I can go ahead and use my finger, or I can use the end of this to more specifically kind of pluck at those fibers. Good girl. Oh, no, yes, Grace.
No, yes.
Grace, not squirrel. So that's right. Sneezing, coughing, sighing, passing wind are all good signs. Yawning, licking, chewing, that the horse is feeling better. Yeah. Excellent. And I'm actually holding here, so I put some weight into it. You work within the horse's tolerance and your safety, no matter what we're doing. But you want to go ahead and say, well, let me see what I can do for this. And you can work it out little by little every day. You want to go ahead and address those. I know. Very nice. So I'm going across the fibers. If it's really deep, I'll go up and down. After I go across, I'll go around, because we really want to get in to some of those different muscle areas, because muscles are supposed to glide. Muscle bellies are supposed to glide across one another. You can see where she's a little tense through here. We don't really want that. That's the not so pretty portion, because something's happening here. You can see she's kind of getting pulled down here, versus when she puts her head down, her neck kind of rounds and softens, and then that looks prettier up here, doesn't it? So we want to make it so when she's standing around, she's grazing, that her body's happy to be in a more effective, comfortable position. And what happens as you work on more dents and dings, you'll find more come up because the body becomes smoother and softer and they come out. What do I say? That's great. The more you find, the more you can fix. So the horse's cervical spine is here. If they have a dent here, they got kicked right in the neck. It's unbelievable what horses can actually walk around and have big hematomas in their shoulders and people don't even know it. You don't know it because you can't see the bruising. And quite often they're not lame and it may not be that hot. But that's where when you get to know your horse even better, you can go ahead and find those areas. If you want to go ahead and turn it the other way, we're going to flip around once or twice. See when she turns here, you see this less than pretty thing here? That was right in her neck, in her cervical spine.
That was the electric fence insulator.
Oh, well that's not bad. Oh, electric fence insulator versus the wire.
Somebody ran her into the fence.
Oh no.
That was Uncle Remus.
Oh, Uncle Remus.
Did that to her.
No, good girl. I usually groom horses in their stall or on a line like this so they can turn around, they can tell me, they can stretch, they can show me what they like, what they don't like, but I still have some safety. You can see there's one right here.
Yeah, you can see that.
The other horse was much, much too pretty. He really didn't have, he had some asymmetry, but I'm like, oh no, this is
Ruffy
just not as
worked hard
fun.
enough to.
But now you can see, you see where this side of her neck is prettier. She's not dipped in through here. So we're gonna go ahead and turn around again. So this is a little board here. It's gone around the block. But when you look at it, this pony is the same as this pony. I took pictures when he was getting vetted because I knew his conformation was pretty good, but his posture and fitness was horrible. So that's the same pony, and there he is when he's fit. He's having different chewing. He's been adjusted. So when you know you can take your horse from here to here, that's very powerful, and it can be financially very beneficial. And then I have some other pictures on the top of horses being crooked like this. Couldn't jump, couldn't gallop because his feet were like this. Is that conformation or is that posture? He had a big dent in the front of his chest. When we released that, and that literally chest muscle goes like this, rotates you in. So this got rotated in, this leg turned out for him to balance. When I released this could rotate out, his shoulder blade could come back, and he was more square, and he could run and jump and do everything that they were wanting him to do. So it's very cool. It's a nice little board, and don't worry if it gets dropped a bit. So again, some smoothness, things that we want to see. We want to see definition in certain areas, but this seems like a little bit too defined in through here. We'll see that in thoroughbreds and stuff, but certain areas, and it's a little bit more detailed, but we want definition in the crest and through here so you can actually see a nicely developed crest. But as the head goes down, the muscle kind of glides like that. We like definition in the forearms, nice big forearms, nice big gaskins. If they have good forearms, good gaskins, they're probably moving their lower limbs well, right? So I'm going to start and show you the technique here itself.